Hello, everyone. My name is William Porter. We're here with Ms. Kavita Gumpter. She is a local business person here in the Raleigh, North Carolina area, and we're so happy to have her with us today on Storytelling Time. And by the way, I'd like to mention the fact that this podcast is the first Zoom podcast of Storytelling Time, and we're really excited about that. And Ms. Gupta was very helpful in making all of this possible, as a matter of fact. So thank you a lot, Kavita, for doing that. And we're so happy, as I said, to have you on the podcast today. And I'd like to, first of all, ask you to talk a little bit about your background. I know you've talked to me about it some, but tell our viewers some of that information about yourself.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me on your show, Dr. Porter. And is this a great time to share? Thank you, Every Dot Black, Jimmy Davies and Kim Davies, for the opportunity to make the connections and be part of your cast. And so thank you so much. Mine, I would say, is like a lot of us, we all have our own journey and stories. I was born in India. And I am happy to say that, or however you would want to share. So one of the things that I reflect on is that as much as being able to be part of this interview, I started my journey in India. I was born there, and I lived in a house with no electricity and no running water. I always remember that, no matter how feel like, oh my gosh, it is such a low point in my life, and it's like, oh my gosh, girl, you lived in a house with no electricity and no running water, and here you are. So whatever you're going through is no big deal. So I actually came to join my dad, who was studying in Michigan, and actually my story is really part of my dad's story. He came to get his PhD, got his PhD in Michigan, then came to North Carolina. And actually, I grew up in North Carolina, high school, middle school, high school, went to UNC Chapel Hill. So most of my growing up has been in the United States. But I will say that one of the, I guess, funniest thing for me is that, so I always thought that I knew how to behave like a Southern girl. And then I was corrected by a Southern girl. And so to be a Southern girl, you do this. And that's what it means to be South. So it took me all of my life to be able to, now I can say I'm officially a Southern girl.
Well, that's great. That's great. Let me, why don't you tell me this? How long have you been a member of Every Dot Black? I know you mentioned to me privately that you've known Jimmy for some time. But
Yes,
how long have you been a member of the organization?
So actually, I've met Jimmy a long time ago. And finally, we reconnected probably several months ago, and I was able to join Every Dot Black. And he made it, he makes it so easy for everyone to join, and I would highly recommend that. It gives you lots of space to become part of. There is a long list of things that you can accomplish as a business person, and especially Kim does a great job of reviewing your profile and such. So it's been really a great experience and exposure.
And of course, Every Dot Black Entrepreneur Podcasting Network is the sponsor of this show. And we're very appreciative of that. And also, I'd like to mention, and I don't know whether I did mention this or not, but we're based out of Raleigh, North Carolina, at least the Raleigh-Durham area. And very progressive, very high growth area. One of the larger, fastest growing areas in the country, as a matter of fact. And we have a great deal of influx of people from all over the country to this particular area. And of course, as entrepreneurs, we're able to take advantage of that. I'm sure you're able to take advantage of some of that. And speaking of entrepreneurs, tell us a little bit about your business.
No, sure. Actually, I come from a very I would say multiple business background, and getting my BS from the Keenan Flagler Business School at UNC Chapel Hill. So it's definitely to be an honor to be an entrepreneur. And so currently, actually, I've had lots of different background in business. And so right now, currently, I'm focusing on a super app. And the excitement of it is a digital platform that helps consumers save money. It helps business people save money, as well as being able to get their coupon onto our digital platform coupon aggregator in the US and Canada. And if that's not enough, right, we can help businesses to give the super app as a benefit to their employees. And so lots of different background, but it's really about helping entrepreneurs get to the next level, and even consumers be able to get to the next level of saving and learning more about financial literacy and personal growth.
Well, that's great. I know for one thing, you seem to be extremely passionate about what you do. And I want to touch on that as a matter of fact, as far as qualities, good qualities in your estimation of a successful business person. And passion is certainly one of those. And if you remember, about 4 or 5 weeks ago, we had a guest speaker at the Every Dot Black Mastermind meeting on Monday evenings, Kelvin Snyder. And his focus was on public speaking, if you remember. And one of the things he mentioned that is extremely important in public speaking, at least, and I assume, and I'm sure that it is important as far as any business endeavor, and that is passion. So what do you think about being passionate as being a major contributor to business success?
Well, I agree with Kevin. He's a longtime buddy as well. And I would say that as much as passion is needed, I think knowing what your action plan is to get your business to the next level. And if you need to talk to 100 people a day to be successful, then your activity has to be there in order to get to the level that you want to get to, right? And entrepreneurship is to be able to do things whether you like it or not. You have to be, whether you're passionate or not, you still have to do the activity in order to get to the level that you want to get to. Entrepreneurship is not easy, but we have to do what makes the entrepreneurship work. And I think actually that's a great segue to really share about, I think, one of the things that's going on in with this pandemic going on. And I think people can be passionate, but they can also quit very easily, thinking that oh my gosh, they're not passionate about it, so I'm not a good entrepreneur and I can quit. And the thing is, entrepreneurs, we have to be able to change. It's almost like surfing, right? You have to be able to surf, and whether the water is really just in terms of be able to, I'm not a surfer, so I'm not being able to describe, but that's what comes on in terms of being able to move your and paddle to the direction that you need to, and you may get wiped out, but you have to come back up again. And it's just a matter of coming back up again. And so be passionate, but also know what you need to do in order to become successful. And you may need to make changes in your mindset to be able to move forward in your whatever endeavor, whether it's your home life or your business life. Is productivity is the key.
Well, you mentioned quitting, and of course, quitting is never an option. We have to find our way through whatever issue or obstacle that we have in front of us. And if we do that, we'll find that somehow things tend to work themselves out. Actually, that has to do with faith, and I'll talk to you about that in just a minute. Mm-hmm. But right now, I want to mention the fact that in addition to passion, there are two other items that I lump in with passion is being very important in being successful and being successful as a business person. And I call these items, as a matter of fact, the 3 P's of success. And in addition to passion, I've listed patience and purpose as being very important as well. So tell us about each one of these and why they're so important in your estimation as far as having business success.
Can you repeat your question, please?
How important is patience, number 1, and purpose, number 2, in any business person's success, whatever they're doing? Patience and purpose.
Those are great keys, but I think it's they're all integrated at the same time, and so it's hard to dissect one or the other. And for entrepreneurs, we have lots of different balls that we're juggling, and at the same time. And having patience, and do I have enough patience, or do I have enough purpose? And I think the key to all of it is to really be part of a team of folks that will help you to fill in the gaps that you may have. And I think in the beginning, entrepreneurs always have time, or may not have time, or may not have enough money to be able to do all the things that they have to do. So clearly there has to be something or someone to be able to help you pull along. And even I always say that one of the things that we need in our lives are people who can share with us the truth without feeling like they will never connect with you again. So it's really important, as much as patience and having purpose, is to have people in your life to be able to tell you the truth, like, hey, you may need to read this book, or you may need to hear this person. Hey, you may need to go ahead and relax a bit to go and keep up with your health or your family. And because there's so many different bubbles or balls that we have to keep juggling. But at the end of the day, what does success mean? Right? You could be successful financially. You could have everything you want, and then you realize you don't have any people in your life, and then you wonder what for. Right?
Okay.
And so you have to build. That's one of the balls that you have to keep juggling. When you get to the end of that road of being successful, that you have the people in your life to be able to enjoy the success.
Right. Well, in my mind, purpose implies that you have a goal, you're moving towards something. And that may take time, as you indicated. And so we certainly need to be patient, even though sometimes things might not be going the way we would like them to go in our business pursuits. But so patience is extremely important. Well, these are qualities, Kavita, that are intrinsic in our faith walk, anyone's faith walk, because we certainly need patience, and we certainly have a purpose as believers. And that's what I want to talk about in just a little bit after the break. And we can go ahead and take a break, and when we come back, we will talk about that, your faith. So we'll be right back. Stay with us. We're back now with Ms. Kavita Gupter, local business person here in the Raleigh, North Carolina area. And those of you who are not familiar with Raleigh, because I know we have viewers all over the country, Kavita, and all over the world, actually. It's we're in the eastern part of the United States, kind of like in the middle of the Mid-Atlantic area, and Raleigh is in what we call the Piedmont section of North Carolina, which is right in the middle. We pride ourselves at being not very far away from the beach. It's about a 3 or 4 hour drive from here to the Outer Banks and to the beaches on the East Coast, and we also have mountains. So we have a variety of things here in the Tar Heel State, and especially here in the Raleigh-Durham area. But I want to talk to you now about your faith, and that's what we're going to transition into, from talking about your business to talking about your faith. And I'm sure there's a connection there between your faith and your business. And so I want to ask a question: why is faith so important in business success, in your estimation?
Thank you. That's a great question. I think is since we have people from all around the world listening to us, I would say faith is one of those things that at the end it'll be worth it, right? And so because of faith, you can withstand whatever obstacles that are going to be in your journey. Yes, there is going to be obstacle, but how do we withstand to get there? And one of my, of course, I would say journey is that to have faith that no matter what happens, it'll be good. God can turn it around. God can make it good. Whatever failures or whatever things that I think is a failure, I know in spite of the failure that I can keep pursuing and just know that all the pieces will work out together for my good. And because I have that, in a sense, that positivity, whatever you want to call it, having faith that God will make it good, I can go on no matter what the obstacle. Of course, yes, there are going to be moments of crying or however you share the emotion, but it's one of those things that is very helpful to have that, because there are so many people who have issues going on, and unfortunately they don't have faith. They don't have people in their group or community to help them in those trying times. And so I would definitely give people the advice of not only having faith, and faith you have to is substance that you can't see, right? So, but you can find people to help you and share with you what faith looks like, and as well as what does community look like, and together that's definitely a great combination.
Well, especially during these times of pandemic, and of course we have social injustice, social unrest going on all around the country and even all around the world.
Mm-hmm.
And the experts say that there's an unusually high level of stress, mental stress going on today. And we can understand why, because of all the things that we have to deal with during this time, climate of COVID-19 and all the other things that are going on. So faith is very important. Of course, you touched on, as far as the scripture is concerned, Romans 8:28, all things work together for the good, for those who love God, to those who are the called according to his purpose. So as believers, we have that advantage, and especially in business, we have to utilize them. Well, one other thing I'd like to ask you about before we close the program today, Kavita, and that is, as you know, I'm sure, I'm an author and I write inspirational books. I write about experiences that people have that are unusual, extraordinary, and sometimes even miraculous. And as I move around networking group meetings, which of course there are very few of, although we do have Zoom and virtual meetings now, but I am told of many things that people have experienced that are very, very interesting, to say the very least. And I would assume that you're no different in that. So I'm going to ask you a question that is, have you had any of these extraordinary or even maybe miraculous experiences or experience in your personal life that comes to mind? Any particular experience that comes to mind, either recent or maybe going way back?
Right. I think for me, it's a daily thing that you're right in terms of we have so many people, or every one of us, we have a story, that we have a journey that we've gone through. And I can say that definitely I'm no different. I think the biggest thing that I've had to really being in this time, right? And I think some in terms of, as I mentioned, I'm from India, so I would say that in whether you're in this country or any country that you're going on, that you are in a journey, and everything happens, good or bad, is something that we have to learn how to accommodate into the future. And it may not make sense right now, but I can share about is perseverance, right? And I think in the Christian faith we talk about when what the enemy meant it for evil, God can turn it around. And so I think in this pandemic time, in this unrest, is that we can't change the past, right? And we can't dwell on the past either, because nothing I can do, nothing I can do will change the past. But what I can do are the things that I can change my today and tomorrow. And so in this pandemic time, I would say that's where to concentrate on. And actually, I think I listen to different podcasts and people who share their information. And I apologize, I don't remember who said it, but I'm sure there's a whole bunch of people who say that in terms of not only in terms of being able to not change our past, but what can we do to change our future? And it is to focus on the things that I can control. I can't control whatever is going on in the pandemic. I can't control whether other people wear masks or not wear masks. I can only control the things that are working or that should be working for me. And I can take care of my health by drinking enough water. I can meditate more if I'm being anxious and having issues of anxiety or whatever the case may be. In terms of, I can make sure that I eat right. I don't have to eat all the things that they are serving me. I can serve myself all the good things that is for me. And so I would concentrate on the things that I can control. Sometimes we want to play God and we want to make sure, hey, you should have done this and you should have done this, and all I do if I go into that mode is that I'm going to frustrate myself. I'm going to have lots of anxiety. I'm going to have all the things that is in the future going, like, it looks really depleting. And since I'm not God, I can concentrate by being human and what are some of the things that I can control. So that's what I've been doing, is really learning what can I do to get my health better. And my health is good enough, but hey, I can always learn from other people. Like one of my heroes is Miss Ernestine Shepherd. She's the 80-year-old, I think she's 86, bodybuilder, amazing woman. Of course, I'm not at her level of being able to run. I think she runs about 10 to 12 miles a day, and then she goes and teaches classes some more, and so just really amazing fit person. And so I can look at people who are sick and I'm like, oh my gosh, being old is blah blah blah. And I can go, oh my gosh, I can be like Miss Ernestine Shepherd. Just as she said, I think somebody said to her, oh, you know what? No matter what you do or what I do, at the end, we're all going to die. And she said, yes, that's true. We're all going to die, but the quality of life is going to be so much better. And even having that one more day in a quality of life is much better than trying to just kind of get by, whether it's in health or whether it's in wealth, is in terms of family. Whatever we have in life, we can we can just concentrate on what we can do. And actually, I just we were talking about Every Dot Black Mastermind Group. Grayson Marshall Jr. Was one of the speakers, and he
Mhm.
talked about don't let emotion get in your goals or decisions. And I thought that was so simple. I was like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense, that oftentimes we're frustrated because we put emotion in whatever decision or the outcome. And if we don't have that, then we can just relax. And so let's all relax in this time and live life and life abundantly as God has given us the promised land. And we just have to wait for it and not be weary in doing well.
And of course, the reason for that, again, relating it to faith, is is because we're all flesh beings, we're all physical beings, and we sometimes cater a little bit too much to the emotional aspect because that affects the flesh, our physical bodies directly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very challenging sometimes not to react to external stimuli that might affect your body in a certain way, especially a negative way.
Mm-hmm.
And so we retaliate, and that might not be the best thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, and also something else that you mentioned, as far as experiences are concerned, the mere fact that we're able to make these decisions, you mentioned our food and diet, these things are very difficult sometimes, and we need some kind of divine guidance in that particular area. For example, especially if there's a food that you are accustomed to eating, that you love eating, but it might not be very advantageous to you. In other words, it might not be healthy for you to consume.
Mm-hmm.
So you certainly need a divine influence or in dealing with that situation. And it is available, as you know, being believers. So it's just a matter of tapping into that. And so faith works in everyday life as well as in our business, as you suggest. So that's extremely important. Well, you've touched upon the pandemic, and to kind of combine the faith aspect that we've been talking about with the pandemic, that's also a very real thing that's going on right now. I remember you telling me something about you've been prepared for all of this, and I think you related it to the pandemic, if I'm not mistaken. But what do you mean exactly by that? The fact that you've been prepared for what we're dealing with right now, especially as it relates to the pandemic.
Sure. I think in terms of the pandemic is something that is totally different. Most people were, of course, most of the world, they were not expecting the pandemic for sure, but they didn't expect what it would do worldwide. And in terms of just is absolutely amazing that it not has only affected, say, restaurants, but it has affected every sector of the world. And so I would say that I was trained in this because probably in the past 25 years, I've had to make changes. And in terms of whatever has happened in my life, it pushed me out of my comfort zone to be able to move in whatever the new direction was. And in most of my, whether it's positions or in terms of entrepreneurship, it's always been moving in direction of the unknown. And I've had to deal with that on a regular basis. And I have pushed myself in arenas that I always wondered, why did I do that? But at the end, I realized that it was pushing me to learn how to do things, whether to speak or when not to speak, because some people, if they're not listening to you, it doesn't matter what you say, and just don't say anything. And all of it has really worked for my good. And I I think in the pandemic, people are realizing is that they can't do the same old, same old. And that's the first step. And they don't, if they want the world to be like it was before pandemic, just let me break it to you very gently. It's not going to be the same. Even if the COVID disappears, it's not going to be the same. There's so many industry that has been affected, and we just have to make changes. There were so many things that has been changing in terms of technology. Is even beyond the pandemic, right? And so we're going to have to, in a sense, come to a point in our life that as much as it's easy to get addicted to this TV show or the social media, or this is, oh, look at that. It was so easy for them. And of course, people don't realize, and I think it's just part of I would say, that the social media is giving to us. And I will share this particular, I think he's, hang on, 80-year-old supermodel. 80-year-old supermodel. Looking good for 80 years old. Actually, he looks really good for not only 80-year-old, but as a fashion model.
At any age, right?
80-year-old, yeah, absolutely. And so he was saying that, he was really surprised that people are saying that he's an overnight success. And I think that's what people see. Oh, this person became a millionaire overnight, blah, blah, just a really false myth, right? But people like myths. It's just the way it is. But he said it took him 60 years to get to the overnight success. And so you have to realize that nothing is overnight. And people always ask me, oh, you are always in a constant chain. It's almost like you have a warfare with yourself to move forward. And sometimes I can see that you're dragging yourself to other places. And that's true, because I know tomorrow will be totally different, and I may have to make some more changes. And for example, I've been working on being able to speak for 19 years. And most people would not recognize me, or actually people who knew me beyond 19 years ago, they won't recognize me. And if people know me now and they hear about me 19 years ago beyond, they wouldn't recognize me either. And so it's been a constant battle of, okay, I need to work on my self-image. I need to work on my identity. I need to work on about belonging, and what does it mean to be a family? What does it mean to be friends? And all of those questions have been part of my life. And every day is a challenge, but I always make sure that I do the simple things, which is finally, right? I don't have to do the hard things. I don't have to save the world. I think there are a lot of us who want to save the world, and I was one of them. And so the best thing I can do for the world and myself is to know that I'm not God. He doesn't need my help. And I can work on me and be able to share my little bit of wisdom that I have learned how to move forward. And there are days that God has carried me, and I'm so grateful. There are days that God is walking with me, and in the future, He may need to carry me, or I can walk. Either way, I'm good. And I think that's the peace of God that you have to really come to a place where, I don't know if it answers your question, but in terms of just know that God has you with whatever is going on. And if today doesn't feel like a good thing, tomorrow will be better. Just keep that.
No, that's great. You mentioned wisdom, and you've shared a lot of wisdom, but it's up to us to receive that and have it work in our individual lives, because we all have histories,
Right.
and we've all come a long way. I mentioned experiences and things like that. But all of us have had experiences that we could share, some maybe more dramatic than others. But anyway, well, thank you for that, Kavita. We're going to take a short break, and then we're going to come back and close the show. Stay with us. Welcome back. We're here with Ms. Kavita Gupter, a local business person here in the Raleigh, North Carolina area, sharing her life with us as a business person as well as her faith. And Kavita, I'd like to thank you for being with us today on this very special edition of Storytelling Time, the Zoom edition of Storytelling Time. And before we close, do you have any closing remarks?
I would just share with my friends and family and the future friends and family who those of us who are listening to this broadcast is just know that building your community, we know the world, and we have, in terms of our tribe, we have our village, but really have 5 to 10, even 20 people in our lives that we see each other on a regular basis. And thanks to technology, even if we don't see each other physically, right, in terms of now with technology, we can really see the world, people around the world, and just take the time to build that relationship. It takes time. And then just know that it's possible to have friends. And if you don't have any friends, let me just say it's not too late. Start right now and build your friendship. And so just know that it's all is possible.
Well, again, thank you for being with us. And I'd like to also thank Every Black Entrepreneurs Podcasting Network for sponsoring this show. And I mentioned earlier that I am an author. I write inspirational books. And if you'd like to know more about my books, you can go to WilliamPorterLife.com. You can get all the information you care to get. So that's all for now. And I'd like to say in closing that if you're going through something that you would not like to go through, just keep this in mind, that there's always more good things coming. We'll see you the next time.